Wow, I feel tall today. What the heck? I feel huge. Mm. Hello, Liam. I'm gonna go ahead and start the medley at the top today because oh, and there it goes. I'm feeling it. My monitor's dead, by the way, so I won't be able to read comments for at least the first 5 minutes of the stream. Oh, my monitor's back up. Hey, what's up, Jesse? Good morning to you. Something doesn't smell good, and it's coming in through my window. Yeah, I don't like that. Oh. I think it's. I think it's some type of pork. Hello, Kaido Arts. How have you been? Haven't seen you in a stream in a little while. Yeah, I know, great. I'm gonna fix it in a little while. I just didn't want to interrupt the morning medley. You know, Cyber, I saw your house yesterday, or at least the photo that you took. If that photo was of your house, I saw that photo yesterday. I don't know what I thought your house looked like, but not that. That was cool. I don't know. Your house looks like a fairy tale house to me. Um, Word up. Umbe was in mixed mode. Umbe forgot the stream started. It's okay, Umbe. I overcorrected. Actually, I didn't. Whatever. That's fine. That's fine. What? What ceilings? Oh, word. Word. this house. like the look of the brown, black, and green cookie, says Greg. I don't know what you're talking about because I'm just entering the conversation now. But good morning, Max. Hope you're doing well. Hope you've had a good Tuesday. Today is Street Sweeping Day, so that means yesterday was Tuesday. Welcome to the stream, Max. Was that a new song? Seemed like it. It wasn't. it wasn't a song. It would. Sometimes I play. Okay, so hold on. Sometimes when, like in the early days of playing Flight Plan, instead of hitting these notes, I would hit these notes, which don't sound like they would change a lot, right? Like, but then going does slightly change it. This note, this chord, I don't know, in here, changes a little bit. I guess it could be considered like a variant of Flight Plan. Flight Plan. This part in here, this one. That's not in Flight Plan, but I just like it, so I threw that in. So it does feel like a new song, yeah? Hello, Dar. How you doing? Good morning to you. It's a change of plan. I like that. I like that a lot. Reroute. Flight Plan rerouted. If I can remember that, if one of you guys ever asks for Flight Plan or change of plan is weird. If you ask for the alternate route for Flight Plan and I can remember to play it, or I can remember how to play it rather, I'll play that. I like it. I would say this version of Flight Plan is a little bit easier on my wrist. A little bit. I do have to take like weird little. I have to like factor in little breaks into the song, as weird as that sounds, to make sure it doesn't. I don't get overwhelmed. Goodbye, Dar. Max says, but those low notes are like the melody of the song, and with the melody, tiny changes can be a huge difference, says Max. I mean, changing anything, right? We went through a whole thing. I don't know if you were in the stream, Max. This was a little while ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago. But we talked about the anatomy of a song and how easily the overall feel of a song can be changed by changing something even as small as rhythm can sometimes change the way the notes are hitting and the way the melody sounds. Sometimes when you change the rhythm, you actually have to add in or take away certain notes from the melody just so that it fits appropriately. Like when I play Love Letters in 5/4 versus playing it in 3/4, the notes aren't all the same. I would say when I played in 5/4, there are actually less notes than there are when I play it in 3/4. But you're right in that even though because the higher hand in Flight Plan is just kind of hitting this, sometimes it kind of gets melted away as just like a frivolous art, and it doesn't take on the role of melody. And the melody is instead heard in the bass. You're absolutely right. Until we get to the da 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 da, that part. It's really interesting. Where is the melody? Where is the melody in Flight Plan? Max, is it in the bass or is it in that RB higher part? It's pretty good. Pretty good question, actually. Hmm. Crow says, so what will replace Hush Hour? As the ending song, Crow? I haven't decided yet. I still have quite a few streams to decide, but I'm thinking of doing a variant of like this song. That song, I'm probably going to have a version of that song that works as the intro and a version of that song that works as the outro. Probably a shorter, sweeter, sweeter intro, and then the outro version will be a little bit longer, more embellished. I'm thinking, Crow. That's where my brain's at right now. I don't know. I don't know, Cyber. There's like a lot of dogs in this neighborhood. And sometimes when I just hear a bark into the wind, I have no idea whose it is. I have no idea. And then, what's her name has like 4 dogs, so. Could be anyone's guess. It sounded like a small dog, so that rules out 3 of the dogs in the cul-de-sac. That rules out 3 of them. But I couldn't see the dog, if that wasn't clear. Sorry, I couldn't see the dog. There's nothing outside. Good morning, Distance. Nice to see you back. I hope everything is well with you. I hope you're healthy, happy, and well fed. Did I water Booba? No, I did not. I did not water Booba today because Booba doesn't need to be watered today. Actually, you don't really have to water this particular type of plant very often. So, yeah, I did not water him today, but I did water him in general. Sometimes in a lot of my songs, kind of going back to the where's the melody, ghost melodies and whatnot, sometimes I do a thing called voice leading where the melody is a lot harder to find for me because it's baked into the chords. Key Lime does this. Like, I know that melody, and a lot of people in this stream are also very familiar with and have memorized that melody. But when it comes to just playing it, it's really hard for me to play simply the melody without the chords. Oh, never mind. Oh, I'm never able to do that. Yeah, that's nice. I'm getting better. Okay, so normally that would be very hard for me. Normally that would be very difficult, but I guess I'm improving. Check that out. Very fun, very cool, very great. So that's an example of one type of melody. But then there's other songs, maybe more complicated songs like Into Thin Air. Like, where exactly do the melody notes lie in Into Thin Air? Same thing as key lime, actually, where since it's voice led, just the whatever highest note at the moment, whatever note is the highest at the moment is the melody note. You know? That's the highest note. Sorry. Yeah, it's just whatever is the highest note. Oh wait, not maybe not. Yeah, it's just whatever the highest note. A lot of voice led stuff. I think if I'm playing a different song, if I'm playing a song that's not voice led, like something like Witchy, definitely not voice led, right? Like the melody is not in the chords. The melody is up here, and I can play it by itself because when I even perform the song, it's played by itself. Hmm. Really interesting. Really interesting. Great, I'm not going to take off my glasses. Although I appreciate you for saying that. I'm not going to take off my glasses. It's weird now. It wasn't weird before. Now it's weird now. I don't want to take them off. Max says, it's kind of weird how we're just used to that being the case. What would it sound like if one were to play the harmony in the right hand, the melody in the low notes? Ah, I love you, Max. This happens a lot, actually. Not so much in my music, but there are a few examples of my songs where the bass line, Max, is the melody. Because the right hand is only playing chords. If you think about the song Chaser, that one. The bass line's doing the most of the moving. The right hand doesn't really have melodies as much as it just has a bunch of chords that it's putting on top of it, you know? This is a thing. Even when we think about something like Chocolat. The bass line's the one doing most of the moving, and if you're gonna hum Chocolat, most people will hum the bass line instead of the actual chords because the bass line is the melody in that song. Now, a melody actually ends up getting introduced via in the form of a lead, or also after the break in the form of steel drums. But in Chocolat, the bass line for the whole first half of the song is the majority of the melodic movement. And the right hand is simply playing the harmony. And it's just those three chords. But that still feels more like an ostinato to me, says Max. It's just kind of weird like that. True. Yeah. There's a few of my songs where the bass line either will take over or sometimes mimic the melody. And the song that I was just playing, the right hand is going, but the bass line. There's a lot of like. There's a lot of times where the bass line will take over, but and the thing is, it is a stretch. Max, this is a stretch when the ear has to default to the lower notes to find melody, but it can happen. I think that the brain doesn't only, it's kind of like a priority system, right? Where a human brain will usually pick the highest note because it sits above everything else, it cuts through a little bit more. It will usually pick the high note to denote it as a melody. But if you take away those high notes and the high notes are simply playing harmonic elements, or maybe even a drone, think about if you have a song that's a drone, right? Where the melody that's being played, kind of like in Flight Plan, is just these three notes, right? Up high you have these three notes, but in the bass you have all this movement. When you're going to be humming this song, if you were listening to this song, I don't know, for maybe a few hours, the part that you would be humming is the bass line because the right hand just isn't offering a lot of melodic movement. but the brain is doing that because it's defaulting first to the high notes, and once the high notes aren't really doing much, but there's a lot of movement in the bass, your brain will just kind of shift and follow the next thing. There are a lot of songs, Max, that don't have any melodic information at all, and when that happens, and there's no harmonic information either, you will default to rhythms. People will default to where the rhythms are in songs. It's actually really interesting, like the kind of like checklist that your brain will do in order to try to like relate to or connect with a song. It's like, okay, no melody, there's nothing that. I think the first thing that a lot of people relate to in music is words, right? And if there's no vocals, it's like, okay, well, I can't relate to that. Maybe melody. And if there's no melody, it's like, okay, well, I can't relate to that. Is there like some type of harmony? Is there rhythm? You know, I think it is like a fun checking list. Hmm. Lunch, huh? Was I wearing an Omo Cat shirt yesterday in the stream? I don't remember. Sorry for the sounds. I do apologize. I kind of default to some lead voice in the harmony. But totally. Brains are weird, says Max. We're kind of getting back to that fact again and again, of course. Brains, brains. What's in your smoothie? It looks really good, says Gray. Gray, there's watermelon, kiwi, strawberries, blueberries, bananas, non-fat vanilla yogurt, and I'm forgetting one thing. There's apple juice, but I'm forgetting something else. Yeah, those things, and then whatever I just forgot to list. Isn't it? I was wearing an Oswald shirt yesterday. Thank you, Lindsay. Oh, I shouldn't have taken off that shirt. Anyways, wearing an Oh No Cat shirt. I like that joke. I like that joke. Apparently the game's coming out next month. Oh crap, this month. Was my rent really due yesterday? I guess that makes sense. There's not 31 days in November. Oh well. Hey, Cyber Liana, don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. I read a tweet. I read a tweet. That's all I did. That's all I did. I did not work for Omocat. My, I know about as much about Omori's release schedule as you all do. I saw a tweet that says it's coming out this month, and I got to stay off Twitter. I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything else. I'm not trying to make anybody lose hope. I don't. I've already said too much. I just as somebody who has not been waiting for that game for nigh 6 years, I don't have a personal investment in its release like a lot of people do. So when I see that they're like, hey, it's coming out on such and such a day, and I tell everybody, hey, that Omori game is coming out on such and such a day, and then it doesn't come out, everybody gets upset, and I do not. So I'm just saying, I saw a tweet that says it's coming out on Christmas. If it doesn't come out on Christmas and then it gets delayed again, I, you know, what are you gonna do? I like that season 3 premise, great. I've been mildly interested, but I'm not like hung up over it, says Liana. Yeah. 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 Okay, so, moving right along. We're talking about what the brain defaults to as far as melodies and harmony and stuff like that. Something that's interesting with me, with, something that's I guess a challenge for me in music and writing new music is like other rhythms. There's a few songs that I have that do have interesting rhythms. Love Letters being in 5/4 is now one of those songs. And when I say interesting rhythm, I'm not necessarily saying something that's so jazzy and weird and out there and difficult to play. I'm just saying something that strays from my typical rhythm, which is that. Stuff like that. Straying away from that, like really hop, skip, and jumping rhythm is something I've been trying to work into music, but it's kind of difficult. It's kind of difficult because when working into new rhythms, it's not just a mental thing. It's also a very physical thing that you kind of have to train your body to do. This rhythm, I've never analyzed what that rhythm is, but I know it's not waltz. It's like the way my brain perceives that rhythm is it's like waltz, but not. My brain plays it, or my body plays it like I'm playing Love Letters, like the original version of Love Letters, which was, a waltz. And I know I started that way. There's just that weird break in there. But I don't know what that rhythm is called. Matt says, Jan Tiersen much? And then he uses a goofy face. Jan Tiersen made the soundtrack to Amelie, which is a really good movie. Also a lot of other music, but I think that's probably the most popular piece of like pop culture piece of work that they've made. Umbe says, the more I listen to Chocolat, the more I'm like, God, my laptop screen is so dusty, and the way the sun's hitting it right now, it's like reading through like a smoke screen. Anyways, um, Umbe says, I listen to Chocolat, the more I'm. This is way different than all your other tracks, mostly anyway. I feel like I've said this a lot, but I'm going to say it's stuck in Leon's head just because of how often it's been brought up. I'm going to say this for everybody in the stream again, and I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to say it again in season 3. I did not produce the majority of that song. That's why it sounds very different from all my other songs. Okay. The chords are mine. The production is not really. All of the percussion work and the layout of that song is not mine. So that difference that you're hearing is because I didn't make that. The difference you're hearing is by somebody named Tom. They handled a lot of the production on that side. That's just why it sounds different. Hey, Cyber, I'm just telling it like it is. This person hears it. They're saying it sounds different than most of my other music, and I agree with them. And that's why. That's why, though. Oh, for sure. I mean, you can tell them. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they got socials and stuff. Only Tom. Only Tom. I think I might have tagged him when the song first came out. I hear you, Umbe, and I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that has anything to say about that song. But that's the only one of my songs like that, if I'm being honest. I'm saying, speaking of Tom, you should mention the Tomo GGG thing you did. Oh, I made a Tomo GGG remix. Mentioned. Wait, doesn't it come out at some point? Doesn't it? I don't know when it comes out, but at some point it's out. I'm not releasing it, but it'll be out. And when it is out, I'll do a breakdown in the Friday stream about it. It comes out at some point this month, but after it comes out, I'll open it up in a Friday production stream, and then I'll do here's went here, here's went there. They said what? I put this in here. I plugged this. And the fun thing about opening up that remix for me and also probably for all you guys is it's so recent that nothing can be broken. A lot of you guys have experienced the dismay of requesting that I open a song that I maybe made like 4 years ago, 4+ years ago, and usually the song's broken. You know, the song has to survive several reformatting of my computers and so just survive computers, right? Because all of Nice Dream, Love Dream, and Speed Dream weren't even made on this computer. They were made on the laptop that has long since gone to the landfill. So, landfill, field. Ugh. Long since gone to the landfill. So this remix should work when I open it. Oh boy. Okay, Gray says it's key pattern and the elevation is pitch. I don't know what you are talking about. Hmm. Interesting. Anyways, I do have that remix coming out. Please listen to it. I'll probably share it on socials. I felt weird yesterday because they posted it. The distributor posted it on Twitter, and I retweeted it, and I was like, man, I hate this site. I had this really weird. I had a feeling I've never had before, where I went onto like a site that I didn't want to be active on, and I also felt like overwhelming guilt because I'm just like, man, I have to like share this thing. These people are posting this song I made. I have to like I made it. I have to at least have some support of the thing. So I like got on and I retweeted it and then felt weird and bad. Anyways, what was I talking about? Oh, Chocolat. Do you recommend working with distributors? Says Umbe. I mean, yeah, if you want stuff distributed. There's a lot of different distributors, Umbe, right? So it's like, do you want your stuff distributed? I know that sounds like I'm being. It sounds like I'm like joking around, but like seriously, like if you want your stuff evenly distributed amongst retailers, then yeah, you kind of have to work with a distributor. There's no way for if you want your music in like Target or you want your music sold in Walmart, you can't just walk up to the manager at Walmart. You got to work with a distributor, and the same thing also works with online stores. You can't just go to Spotify and upload a song. It's not like SoundCloud. You got to work with a distro. So, do I recommend working with distributors? Yes. If you want your stuff distributed, there's literally no other way to do it. Do I recommend recording music? Yes. If you would like other people to hear it without you performing it live, I would recommend investing in some type of recording gear. But I mean, it really depends on your goals. Maybe you don't want people to hear your music not live. Maybe you don't care that your music isn't on Tidal or Apple Music. In which case, don't work with a distributor. But there are a lot of them. That is maybe the more important question is what is the right distributor for you? We talked about this kind of briefly on Discord, but I'm sure that conversation's been lost a long time ago. So if you are going to start working with a distributor, all I would say is just to do your research, go on a forum, see what everybody else is saying about stuff, and always keep in mind that the distributor game is always changing. So just because one distributor works for you today in 2020 doesn't necessarily mean it's still going to work for you in 2022. So always, keep your eye on the market and see what's changing, what's being offered, and what's being taken away. Max says just pedal tapes from a van outside Walmart. People do that. I don't know that that's been necessarily successful though. People don't do that outside the Walmart here. Granted, the Walmart here is pretty far. I have to drive pretty far to get there, but it's the only Walmart I can think of where there isn't like stuff happening in the parking lot. It's a really sterile Walmart. Don't know how I feel about it. Do you recommend making a mixtape, says Cyber? Ooh, I like this question. Do you remember Flower District? I don't remember how to play it, but I do remember releasing that song, Gray. Do you recommend making a mixtape? I get okay. So a mixtape. Who was I? I remember having like a kind of like a weird debate about mixtapes. What was and wasn't. Oh, I do remember. Okay, so, anyways, I I rec. Oh wow. I don't know if that was a serious question or not, Cyber, but mixtapes are a very divisive topic. So I don't even know where to begin. I don't. Hmm, hmm. I don't. Hey, what's up, Chuck? Hmm. Hey, what's up, Jayla? I don't completely understand what a mixtape is because mixtapes are there's a lot of different definitions of mixtapes, which I guess is like actually a pretty good gym for conversation. So I'll get into it in a second. Okay, so mixtapes. I'm gonna say what I've done that is a mixtape, but then I'm gonna do a little bit of history on mixtapes. This is actually gonna be a little fun. Earliest song you remember playing? I don't, Gray, because when I first got a keyboard, Gray, and I was like messing around on the keyboard, I was messing around on the keyboard typically and trying to make up tunes. So I'm sure I made up some like little like elementary tune or ditty, and I have since forgotten it. You know, in the same way that I'll be messing around with the stream, Gray, and then forgot those things. But as far as earliest song I remember releasing, which is not what you asked, um, I put up a I put up a song called. Oh, you know what? If I ask my friend Mirage, he'll probably be able to tell me because he always references it. Anytime he like sees me, because he's just like, "Wow, you have like a full career, man. Do you remember blank song?" And he always mentions this one song that I made in FL3. Oog or like it was like goom or oog or oomph or something like that. It's stupid. Anyways, I do remember my first song. I can't exactly remember what the name of it was or what it sounded like. I remember it being really bad, but that was the first song I put out. Okay. I definitely have thought on it, but I want to hear the musician's angle about mixtapes, I suppose. Hold on, I'm getting into it. Um, oh, Jayla was reminded of the stream because of Spotify. Thanks, Spotify. You brought Jayla back, even if but only for a fleeting moment. Now I'm going to talk about the whole mixtape thing. So as far as I'm concerned, I have two mixtapes. I have one called Tall Tales and one called Lush Dream. Those are what I have called mixtapes. And the reason that I called those two things mixtapes, the first one was called a mixtape by me because it accrued a bunch of kind of just random songs that I had made. It wasn't a premeditated release. I was like, here's about 10 songs that I've made that all sound different, but whatever. I want to put them out. And then I put them out under the mixtape umbrella. That's why I call that a mixtape. The second thing, Lustrum being called a mixtape, it was just because it was so long that I thought it exceeded what like an album or an EP or anything like that would be. Now let's talk about what a mixtape is and what it can be. There are a few different forms of a mixtape. One form of a mixtape is making somebody literally a mixtape. You know, like you have a tape, like a cassette tape, and you record a lot of songs on it, and it's just a mix of a lot of songs you like for this person or what you think this person would like. So maybe you take that cassette and you put like a song by I don't know, Michael Jackson on it, but you also put a song by the Beatles on it, and you also put a song by Elton John on it, and you also put a song by Pink Floyd on it, and you're like, here you go, buddy. This is a mixtape I made for you. It's like a playlist. Think of it that way, like yesterday's playlist. That's one form of mixtape. Now, a more industry form of mixtape is like a almost like a legal loophole. Now, when an artist signs a contract, usually what the contract will do. This is such a fun conversation. I apologize if I'm boring anybody because I'm just getting into it. Ray found me from Roblox. You're not the only ones that actually do that. Thank you, Roblox. Um, Pause on that really quick. Ombi says, Omni, you ever have a song that's so close to completion it makes you sick? Every song I've ever made. Every song usually has a lifespan where it starts really quick. I get it from 0 to like 30% really quickly. And then it goes from 30% to, um, I would say like 70% pretty slow. And then I get like a second win and I'm like, boom, boom, boom. And I push it all the way to about 95%. And then I'm just sitting at 95% for a few months. Don't really know what to do with it until the deadline comes and I rush it out. Back to what I was talking about though, as far as mixtapes, there's a other type of industry mixtape. So if an artist gets signed to a label, a lot of people think of contracts as a time thing, right? Where it's like you signed a 2-year contract, you signed an 8-year contract, you signed an X amount of time contract. This isn't necessarily the way contracts work in the music industry. As somebody that has signed contracts that I think I shouldn't have, a lot of times you think about contracts. Me, I'm projecting. A lot of times I think about contracts in a form of time, right? We own you for 6 months. You work for me for 2 years, things like that. But a lot of music industry contracts are by work and not time. So when you sign an artist, you would sign them more for an amount of albums or an amount of songs or an amount of tours. You think about it that way because not every artist is releasing music regularly. And if you're a label where you're having to juggle a bunch of artists, maybe this little neglected artist down here doesn't even get to release an album for 3 years. But if you only sign them for 3 years, that means they initially get off their contract without actually doing any work or making you any money, which is what labels think about. So, when the mixtape comes into play in the music industry, and hip hop specifically, what a mixtape was if you were an artist and you got signed to Def Jam and they had you for 3 albums, but they said your next album can't come out until September or something like that, and you meanwhile are like, well, I have to stay relevant, I have to stay hot, and I also have all these really cool musical ideas that I would love to share, but I can't do it without label approval. They would release things called mixtapes, and a lot of times the mixtapes would be free, but they would just be put out in order to keep their audience engaged, to keep their audience interested. And a lot of these mixtapes, because they were free, would be kind of poorly mixed and mastered, and they would feature a lot of samples, like not a lot of original production. Like sometimes they would just be rapping on top of like a loop from the Temptations, because it was just free music just to put out there to let people know, hey, I'm still alive, I'm still working, album's coming, but stay tuned, because things like Instagram and social media and stuff like that didn't exist back then. So if you're trying to stay relevant as a musician, one of the main, nigh only ways you could do that was by releasing and performing music. And so the mixtape was more of like a legal loophole for artists to continue to release music without voiding their contract with the label, because the label would say X amount of albums, and a lot of the artists will go, well, this isn't an album, this is just some stuff that I'm putting out for free. It's not even making any money. So, that's another kind of definition of what a mixtape is / could be. I think that the word mixtape, just like the word EP, just like the word album, has been relying on so many things, from physical limitations to what the medium could physically hold, right? How many songs you can put on a vinyl, how many songs you can fit on a CD. They've been confined by things like that. They've also been confined by weird verbiage and contracts of what the legal side of the music industry thinks music is called. There's a lot of things that go into informing a lot of these names that we have put on music and the ways to release it. The way that I personally see mixtapes is I see them as a less like a less serious, a less weighted version of an album, right? When you tell people you have an album coming, there's a lot of weight. Even though some of you guys maybe in the stream are just like, music's music, whether it's an EP, an album, a B-sides, an LP, a mixtape, I don't care. Maybe it's all the same to you, but I hope that I'm communicating even a little bit that it's not that way for the music industry as a whole. as a whole, when somebody says they have an album coming, there's a certain amount of weight that comes with that. Someone's sophomore album, someone's debut album, people are like, this has got to be good. If somebody's like, here's a single, here's an EP, here's a mixtape, these things hold a little bit less weight in the music industry than an album does. In a lot of ways, you know, when you think about even the industry from a Grammy standpoint, even the industry from an award standpoint, even the industry from Billboard standpoint, they're looking at albums. They're looking at what was the best album this year. They're looking at what people did in their albums. They're not necessarily putting a lot of stock into mixtapes. There was a whole thing with like Chance the Rapper and how he put out a mixtape and how it was nominated for stuff, and people were like, this is weird because that was not an album. It's just weird. Basically, it's just words. Words mean whatever you want them to mean. But I hope that does a little bit in explaining kind of what a mixtape is, what it was, what it can be, and how I, Omni, see the mixtape. I'll probably at some point put out another mixtape. I probably will, yeah, at some point put out another mixtape, but not yet. Not yet. At some point I'll probably put out an album. I just don't know when that is. And that's a whole nother conversation. Anyways, Chuck says Gucci is pretty gold. It's so chill. I do think the explicit label shouldn't be there. Says Okay, Chuck. Since nobody's talking about the mixtape thing, I'll take the bait on this one. So thank you. I do appreciate. The compliment to Gucci. Gucci was originally a remix, Chuck. It was originally a remix for a song called Gucci Gang, which was explicit. And what happened was, when I released Gucci Gang, there's these things, I'm not going to bore you with like data, but there are these things called ID3 tags that get added to songs. Think of it like a barcode for a song, right? So that people can track sales, and people can, like, basically you scan this code and it can bring up everything from the sales to the streams to the lyrical content to who wrote it, who produced it, who mixed it, who mastered it, what distributor released it, who owns the master to it. Pulls up all this information. Since it was originally a remix, it was explicit because it had a little pump rapping on it, and there was a lot of profanity in it. And when I changed it to Gucci and took off his vocals, I personally forgot to redo the ID3 tags, and that's why it shows up as explicit, even though there's literally no lyrics to the song to make it explicit. So I do apologize for that, but you're actually the first person to ever bring that up in a stream. That's pretty funny. I feel like just nobody knows that. Or the people that know it just don't care, I suppose. Really interesting. I forget about it sometimes because, I mean, obviously I don't listen to that song. Somebody says, I've always wondered what would happen if I uploaded without explicit tag. Yeah, word. Now you know. Distance says, what key do you play in most of the time for beautiful melodies like that? Hmm. Hmm. Do you tend to modulate out of... Oh, you asked us a few questions. Oh, okay. So the first question is, what key do you play in most of the time for beautiful melodies like that? So distance, I have what I didn't consider to be a weird outlook on keys until recently. So to me, keys don't mean anything. To me, what's a good analogy for my perspective on keys? My perspective on keys. Distance. Ooh, I like this. Okay, I like this a lot. I like this a lot. Distance. Have you ever been in a cornfield? Ooh, this is a very Arizona thing. This is a very Arizona reference. I hope that this connects. If you haven't been in a cornfield, I'm going to go ahead with this analogy anyway. So, if you have or have not been in a cornfield, I've been in a lot of cornfields. And this really weird thing happens in a cornfield where, I mean, unless you're like, I don't know, 15 feet tall, the entire cornfield looks the same once you're in it. Whether you're like 4 feet in the cornfield or 40 yards into the cornfield, you kind of you feel, if you're looking up, you just see corn stalks and you see the blue sky. Like, it doesn't really matter how close to the edge of the cornfield you are. Everything kind of feels the same. That's what keys are like to me. Now, I know for somebody that knows music theory, they can look and go, ooh, this key is very sad, or this key sounds very mysterious, or this key is where the beautiful chords are, or this key is where the pretty melodies are, and they can say something like that because they have a perspective that I do not, as an idiot, I guess, in music theory. Right? They're looking from the top and they can go, Omni, you're really close to the edge of the cornfield. Omni, you're in the middle of the cornfield now. Omni, you're really close to the killer, or whatever. But for me, it's just corn and blue sky. So you're saying, what is a key? What key do you play in to make those pretty melodies? And it's just, any key can have pretty melodies, in my opinion. It doesn't matter where you started. A good example is the song that I was playing. This is the that song wasn't always there. It started here. Remember? It used to be there. The only reason I moved it to here is because I like playing black keys. Playing black keys makes me feel like I'm improving at my hand dexterity than just playing the white keys all the time. So I just moved it for physical reasons. As far as the sound, my brain, like, I don't have perfect pitch. I don't remember keys. So a lot of times, like, if I'm laying in bed and I'm thinking of this song, I might be humming it in a key that it isn't actually in. A lot of times I'll start humming a song like, what's a song I have? Watch, it's not going to work now because now I'm put on the spot, but sometimes I'll have a song. That's Union Station. I was actually pretty close there. What's another song that I have? Okay, it's actually working this time. I don't have perfect pitch. This is horrible. This is not going the way I wanted it to go. But typically, I'll start humming a song, and then when I start playing it, it's in a different key than I was humming it in. And that's because distance, just kind of, I memorize melodies, and I can memorize harmony. But as far as the key that it belongs in, it's like home place, like, that doesn't really matter to me. And so, as far as playing pretty chords, I feel like it can happen in any key. Does that make sense? I promise I'm not, this isn't a bit. I honestly do believe that. Hold on. I just lost the thread. Okay. But that wasn't the only thing that Distance asked. Distance also said, do you tend to modulate out of the scale a lot? I do not know, Distance, because I do not know what the scale is. So I don't know whether I'm staying in it or not. Now, this really interesting thing happens, Distance, where what is a scale? I'm glad you asked this, though, by the way. What is a scale and what is a key? I know those are things. Those are very rigid things that exist in, like, textbooks. Now, my body sometimes feels things. I feel like something weird is happening in a song. Like, when I play this song. Um, oh, wrong. There it is. There it is. When I do this distance, that sounds weird to me. I feel like I've left whatever the key was of this song, but I played for somebody else and they were like, you didn't leave the key, you're still in the key. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm hearing then. But I'm hearing something. And I don't have like nice, agreed upon terminology and verbiage to use, like modulate and scale. But I just know when my body and my brain feels a shift or feels like something weird is happening. And I know when my brain doesn't feel like there is a key. Sometimes I'll be playing something like when I play Chaser. That song doesn't really feel like anything to me. It just feels like a bunch of jumbled chords. And I know that somebody that knows a lot more than me could look at it and go like, oh, you're in this key, and then you modulate here, and you're using borrowed chords. But somebody with my limited amount of textbook, you know, westernized music theory knowledge doesn't use the same words that a lot of other people do when describing music. So I don't know if I modulate out of the scale a lot, or ever, or all the time. And as far as changing keys entirely, distance, there is a song that I do feel like that happens in. There's two, actually. There's this song. Hold on. I'm getting there. I feel like I just changed keys. I feel like that song changes keys. And I also am pretty confident. I'm like 99% sure that Double Let's changes keys. This song. I feel like those are two different keys. So I do feel like I have some songs that even I feel confident enough saying the key I think changed because I'm literally playing the exact same thing but like moved up or moved down. But there are a lot of other songs where I'm not sure. I'm not sure, and I don't want to say something that may or may not be true. Leon says A plus. Finally morphed far enough from the Flintstones. Leon, you don't know how much I appreciate you saying that. You don't even know. You don't know what you've done for me today. Somebody says, I still don't know how to find the key for a track, so I just run with C major 24/7. Word up. Word up. Holiday, a fart cruise. Says Shalom. Hello. Hello. I'm going to say holiday. I'm going to say holiday when referring to you from this point forward. See where this is going. Jayla liked the analogy. Thank you, Jayla. I appreciate it. Holiday's a Nebraskan, so they appreciate the analogy. Black Keys Power indeed, Holiday, Max says. But even though it's the same harmony, it has a completely different feel. Talking about changing keys. I disagree. I actually disagree with that. And I'll tell you why. Cyber's at Popeyes. Cyber getting the sandwich? I would say sandwich. I don't know if you've ordered already. You probably have, but I would say do the sandwich. I'm a big fan of the amount of bread. Carbs are great, says Max. I agree with that. This one says, so with no home key established, when you make melodies, do you use more like the pentatonic scale to base your melodies off of? So, distance, I do not know what the pentatonic scale is. I don't know exactly how to answer that question. I want to say I'll say this, distance. If I am using the pentatonic scale to base my melodies off of, I'm not aware that that's what I'm doing. But it's completely possible that I am doing the thing you said. But you want to say if not, which I think is the case. Heck yeah. So I feel known. I feel seen, distance. If not, which I think is the case, do you tend to use more stable notes rather than unstable notes overall, or vice versa? You're asking a lot of really good questions. So, I want this. I want this. I want to answer this question. Stable notes versus unstable notes. Yes, I would consider Corn Tunes to be a mixtape, by the way, Liana. Very good question. Stable and unstable notes. Okay, so there is this particular excerpt of Love Letters, Distance. You've heard the song Love Letters, right? This one. This part. That part of the song, I'm sure there's a bunch of unstable notes in there, but I'm just like messing around and having fun, right? There's like some unstable notes in there for sure, but I think it's because I'm like running around and having fun. But I feel the stability in them because they're reinforced by chords. Even in Winter Heart, I don't feel like any of the notes, however, in the Winter Heart thing are unstable. Those all feel stable to me. Those are all stable, yeah. Those notes. They all fit over the specific chord that I'm playing at the time. What oh, I'm just trying to I'm just trying to get better so I can get somewhere in life, says Distance. I encourage you, Distance. Here's what's happening, Distance. Here's what I think is happening, because I feel like you know more about music than I do when it comes to like the jargon, right? Like what things are called, what is the proper way to refer to techniques or notes. You know what you're talking about, which is very important. I think my approach to music. I think my approach to music, Distance, is more just kind of like having fun and feeling things out, right? So when you're messing around in music and you don't have a lot of educational reinforcement from experience, Distance, what usually ends up happening is you will, one, just make up things that sound nice to you, and you won't necessarily get too hung up on what type of chord is this? Is this a minor chord? Is this a major chord? Is this a seventh chord? Is this a sixth chord, if that's a thing? Is this, you won't think about stuff like that. You'll just go, oh, what sounds good? And you'll go there. And then what happens is once you're building harmony, certain things will strike chords in you. I need a different terminology. Certain things will put on a light bulb in you, like turn on a light bulb in you. And I think, Distance, what ends up happening is things you're hearing, right? Like, let's say there's somebody that knows a lot about music. Let's say there's a jazz genius. There's somebody like a Louis Cole, a Jacob Collier, a Max Coburn, any of those people. They're making music from a knowledge base, and they do something. And then me, I just kind of luckily stumble upon that thing. Or with like a lot of years of work and messing around the keyboard, I just have a more comfortable layout of where the keys are and where I can go. And then I'll do something that sounds really good and to me, and maybe even to them, but they know what it is. They know the technical term of what that thing is. And even though I'm in a weird way learning from those knowledgeable people, I'm learning in a much more roundabout, just sound and putting sounds together way. In the same way, Distance, I don't know if you mess around with synthesizers a lot, right? I don't know if you mess around with synthesizers, whether they're soft synths, analog synths, digital synths, but there is this thing in synthesis where somebody can arguably turn on a microchord, they can turn on a Roland Gaia, they can turn on a Juno G, and they can turn some random knobs and keep hitting the key and then go like, ooh, this sounds cool, and then start playing with that. And they'll just go, well, I turned this knob, I did this thing, I don't know, but this sounds cool. I turned this up and then I clicked this button and I did that. And now it sounds like this. They'll have fun with that keyboard, and maybe over time they'll actually get better at stumbling upon or even crafting intentionally a lot of those sounds in the future. But somebody like me can walk into the room and go like, "Oh, you're messing with the ASD, sorry, you're messing with the ADSR, or you're messing with LFOs, or you're messing with a pitch mod. Like what you want is a pitch mod. I can already hear the attack slope on that sound. The attack slope is very, very high. That's why it's coming in late. And this will be absolute gibberish to the person who actually made the sound, because the way they made it is they were like, oh, I turned this knob up, I turned this knob down, and now it sounds like this. And so technical jargon and actually knowing the theoretical reasons behind a lot of the effects that are achieved in music aren't necessarily, they're not better or worse. They're just kind of two different ways to achieve the same goal. So I think that distance, your name being distance, is somehow making this conversation really funny to me, because I keep thinking of distance as a concept. Okay, so distance, I think that is our two paths, right? Like I've clearly, from our conversations, spent a lot more like intimate time with keyboards than maybe you have, but you know what a pentatonic scale is. So there's this really weird thing where you're asking questions that I just don't have answers to. I don't know if I'm using stable or non-stable chords. I know what I'm doing with my fingers, though. You know. And I'm glad that the sound design analogy worked. I think that in my particularly more, what's the word? Angsty? No, I need something worse. What's a meaner thing? What's a worse thing? In my more spicy, in my spicier days. So there's this thing, I mean, I'm sure you're very aware of it, distance, as being in the music industry to any degree. There is a lot of elitism in music. There's a lot of people that have a lot of knowledge and a lot of skill. There are a lot of people that have no knowledge and a lot of skill. There are a lot of people that have no knowledge and no skill. Aw. And there are people that have a lot of knowledge and no skill. There's like a diamond of the music industry, and there's a lot of people that when they have the knowledge, they can be a little condescending. And usually when they have the knowledge in music is very limited, right? What is perceived as knowledge in music distance is very limited. A lot of people will think of music as being a thing that you can learn and then be good at. And it's not. Definitely from a theoretical standpoint. And I think a lot of people will learn a lot of music theory, or they'll graduate from Berklee School of Music and they'll go, well, I'm a great musician now. And I think music is so vast, it's almost like language. Like you never are done learning a language. And even if you just learn the grammatical way to put together English, right? That doesn't mean that somebody can drop you in the middle of New York City and you'll be able to understand really what's going on around you all the time. It's really complicated, you know? And when you think about music gets ever more complicated every year. I could widen it by saying every decade, but honestly at this point with like technology, every year gets more complicated. Every single time there's a new update on FL Studio, a lot of people think about music theory, like putting together notes, but I'm not just a pianist, you know? I'm a producer and a songwriter. A lot of weird things go on in songwriting and production that they're not going to cover in like a jazz theory workbook, you know? And so maybe somebody knows, you know, all of the scales and all of the modes to play in, but they have no idea what an LFO is or what a parametric EQ is. And these are things that like I have to know in order to make music. So it's weird. You know, music knowledge is just so vast, so vast. I talked in a stream, I would say about 50 streams ago, I went really in-depth distance on frequency ranges of instruments and how I think it's important for people to know the frequency range of instruments. As somebody that barely knows them himself. Frequency ranges of instruments being, not every instrument has the same range, which is why we have cellos and violins and violas and, contrabasses. That's why we have those instruments, because they all have a different frequency range, and put together they equal the range of a piano. You ever think about that? Piano, being 88 keys, has this magic range over just about any other instrument. Because most other instruments usually have, like, violin will be up here somewhere. That's their whole range. A bass guitar will be down here somewhere. That's its whole range. But a piano has this, like, not infinite, but nigh infinite when we're talking about, perceivable frequencies. And so you write a lot of music on piano and you forget, oh crap, if I'm making music for a saxophone, if I'm writing music for a flautist, if I'm going onto my computer and I'm going to be writing a woodwind arrangement, they can't be hidden notes outside of their range. That's impossible. I mean, it's possible with sound fonts, but I think you get the point that I'm making. I was leaning on sandwich, but I'm not actually hungry today, says Cyber, who got chicken tenders. I'm sorry, Lindsay. I'm sorry, Lindsay, and that's not even what I try to do. I have, like, I've had... Berkeley kids are great. Berkeley kids are great. My friend teaches at Berkeley. Berkeley kids... Well, he's not a Berkeley kid, though, so he doesn't count. Berkeley kids are fine. I just think if you go to med school and you get out of med school, you get to be a doctor. If you go to Berkeley and you graduate from Berkeley, you don't graduate as anything other than a graduate. You don't graduate as, like, a great musician or a well, yeah, whatever. Anyways, point is, I just think a lot of people will go to an art school and then they'll graduate from art school and they'll get, like, a weird chip on their shoulder, and, like, the days of that are gone, unfortunately. Or, I mean, fortunately, if you're considering me. Somebody like me who can't afford to go to music school, it's, like, very fortunate that those days are gone, because I get to work with cool companies and didn't have to go to Berkeley to do that. Jesus, that school's expensive. Spicy notes are the norms now, says Chuck. Oh, tell me more, Chuck. I'm curious. Language is a great analogy, since you can learn a language by studying grammar and vocabulary, and you can learn speaking to people. Same with music. This is very true. This is very true, Max. Ooh, Max, please don't let me forget to come back there, because there's a really good point to be had there also that I didn't really touch on. Cyber's making a joke about Language by Porter Robinson, which is funny because I feel like nobody brings up that song anymore. Everybody's on World's Wives and whatever he's doing now. I don't know. I don't really listen to Porter Robinson anymore. I gotta be fair. Max says, what you're saying is being a pianist is cheating. What I'm saying is being a pianist is almost a handicap. It's like the opposite of cheating. It makes you really, really good at arranging, but it also... Being a pianist, you get to do so many things. You get to play full songs by yourself, Max. And then, like, somebody who's playing, like, an oboe has to think about the ensemble to some degree, because there's not a lot of solo oboists that, are out there, like, with careers. Usually you're part of an ensemble, so they have to think about where they sit in the ensemble and also where everybody else sits. When you're a piano player, sometimes you can lose sight of that. I'm saying that from experience. Why are you analogizing? I'm genuinely filled with joy when you do it. I mean, I'm not though. I feel like the Omnis of the world versus the Omnis of the world versus the Jacob Collier or Colliers of the world needs to stop. We need to stop. We need to hang up our arms and just all get along and stop constantly throwing pot shots at each other. But it is hard. I'm growing slowly, but heaven help me. Based on our combo, I now think one needs experience more than anything. Oh, Distance. Distance, you're so smart. I wish I was as smart as you. I kind of fell into this. Hey, what's up, Afro Addy? Okay. Pianists are broken on the tier list. You just arrange a track on piano and the goodies start pouring in. This is true, Umbe. Even if it's a joke, it's a true joke. Max says, well, I play the trumpet and my range is like 2 octaves. I feel like you're cheating when I have to put in so much work to play. This is fair. This is fair. Yeah, I agree with that then. Um, but to go back to the language analogy, one of the main reasons that people want to learn these terms, right? Learn music theory, learn how to read sheet music, learn how to write sheet music, learn keys, learn the names of scales, is because it helps you when you're talking to other musicians. I would say that now more than ever in history have we had musicians who don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to tell anybody anything. When I go perform live, I don't need a live band to play all the parts, so I don't need to write down all of the parts for them to play. When I'm going in to record, I'm literally getting out of my bed and sitting in a chair 3 feet away and recording it all myself. And so I don't really need to communicate with other artists the same way that a lot of musicians had to in the past. A lot of musicians had to be able to communicate with each other. And so they had an established language to do that. As somebody that only plays their own music typically, and doesn't put their music on sheet music for other people to learn, I just don't have that same requirement in the music industry. And so it is like language in that way. But that's not the only benefit of learning music theory. It can also help you, of course, do your own arrangements and know where you can go with music. I think that I kind of broke, I don't know, a meniscus. Does anybody know what a meniscus is? I feel like I broke mine. 273. We can do that. We can do that, Cyber. Thanks, Anya. I hope my questions didn't feel like I was trying to jab shots. Not at all. Not at all. I was very curious because I'm going to start practicing a lot more now. Distance, 273. Distance, I think, and my meniscus thing actually ties into what you were talking about. Yeah. But not necessarily the. Think of the meniscus, Addie, as more of an analogy on what the meniscus does. What the meniscus does inside of your knee. That's what I broke in music, and it ties into what Distance was saying about. What Distance was saying about experience. So, a lot of the things I've gotten into in my life, guys. Ooh. Oh, it's slap bass number 2. Sorry. Ew, it sounds like water somehow. It's really slappy down here, but up here not at all. I'm gonna find the note where it turns into slap. It gradually fades in. That's impressive. It should have gone higher. It should have gone higher. Okay, so talking about meniscus and experience, a lot of the things that I've gotten into in my life, guys, I haven't necessarily gotten into with the goal to be good. I got into them because they were fun and just kind of, and this sounds really stupid and kitschy and cheesy. Like it's the whole like, oh, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, which is a huge lie, and I don't want to support that horribly erroneous claim. But I do think that if you get into something that you are enjoying, you're having a good time, the work aspect of it, you don't think of it as putting in hours. A lot of people are like, oh, you're an expert if you put in, what is it, like 10,000 hours or something like that. You're not thinking about those hours if you're in genuinely enjoying the thing that you're doing. Now, something that I'm really good at is playing video games. I'm like a genuinely good gamer. You can kind of put a first-person shooter in my hands, I'll get pretty good at it. You can put a fighting game in my hands, I'll figure out the controls and I'll be a contender at it. I'm not just bad, really, at any game I've played. Racing games like that, you can just kind of play them. And this is something that a lot of people are like, that game pretty often, and it's something that we take for granted because we didn't start gaming to get good. We were just gaming because we had fun, and before we knew it, hundreds of hours had been put into this gaming console, and now we're just generally good at video games. Now, that same thing can be said about skating. There's a lot of skaters who are really good, and you say, how long did it take you to get this good? And they'll say, well, I mean, I kind of just was skating a lot when I was a kid because everybody else was, and I gradual improvements over time. There is kind of like a tipping point where you start getting serious about the thing and trying to actually improve at a notable rate. But the initial section of time that you're investing into that thing, for me anyways, I'm projecting, but for me it has to be enjoyable. I have to be enjoying myself and what I'm doing. And all of the things that I can think about that I was really good at, whether it was dancing, whether it was be it both like just like messing around and dancing, or also ballroom dancing, salsa dancing, swing dancing, playing piano, producing music, playing video games. A lot of these things were things I enjoyed. And so I put hours and hours into them as a personal fulfillment. And then after a while, you just are good at the thing. Now, I think when a lot of people get into music, whether it's performing distance or it's recording or it's releasing, I think that a lot of people have their goals set. They're like, I want to sound like Ariana Grande. They're like, I want to be able to play piano as good as Corey Henry. Or I want to be able to skate like Bucky Lasek. I want to be able, that's a good name, huh? Did you guys think I was going to say Tony Hawk? Anyways, I want to be able to skate like Kareem Campbell. I want to be able to drive, people will have a goal already kind of set of where they want to be. And that's actually very healthy. I think people should have that. If anything, it gives you a path, sets your path so you have a direction to work towards. I don't typically have that when I get into something. Usually I get into a thing because I genuinely love the thing. I have one plant in my room. I have one plant in my entire apartment. And there are people, I'm not going to say the names of these people, but there are people that I know who their whole place looks like like a rainforest, and they have all these really finicky plants where they're like, this one's really hard to take care of, and you really have to monitor it. When one leaf starts wilting, like it's like red alert, baby. We got to get in here, and you need this special food and these vitamins. You can't just give it water. It needs this. I'm repotting it right now. They have all these things. I'm not necessarily trying to be like them. Maybe one day I eventually just am them, but it will only be because I went at a steady pace that was enjoyable to me and I didn't overwhelm myself. I think what a lot of people tend to do in art, especially now that social media exists and you can constantly see people all around the world who are freaking amazing 24/7, I think that a lot of people will go, well, I'm not very good and I'm not improving at a good enough rate, because every single time I get onto Instagram, somebody's got some like weird animation that they did, or weird song that they made, or some makeup thing they did, or something they designed, and it's amazing. So I need to improve. I need to be better. I need to grow. I think this can be really cool. It's like an arms race, right, of skill. But from personal experience, I did not have that. When I got into music, when I got into keyboards, when I got into FL Studio, when I got into synthesis, a lot of these things were done kind of in a vacuum where I was the only one really working and diligently at it. My friends weren't really into music. They had their own things that they were into. I was just kind of working at my own pace, doing a thing that was fun for me. And now, distance and stream, I'm better at that thing. But I think for a lot of people, that fun area doesn't last as long as it did with me. And they're like, you know what, I need to be better. If I can't be better at this thing, what's the point in doing it? And they'll quit, or they'll give up, or they'll move on to something else. And I think learning music theory, having the books, the reason that it hasn't been so urgent, like I do want to do it and I am going to do it, but the reason it hasn't been so urgent to me is for that reason. Because I had already put in so much time having fun that I did develop technical skill on how to be good at writing songs and playing piano without the knowledge. Now, if it stopped being fun at a certain point, I would have to, pick up a book and try to grow that way. But it just never stopped being fun. Playing and creating music is still very fun for me, even with the limited amount of knowledge I have. I mean, if you've been in a Friday stream, those aren't like obligatory. Like, I just genuinely enjoy playing and creating music. Um, Music theory does speed up your work, but sticking to it would rather limit your creativity. Yeah, I'm not saying either or. As somebody that doesn't know music theory, I was talking specifically to Distance's point when Distance said the most important thing is experience. Experience really is the most important thing. And if I bogged myself down with music theory, I would have actually impeded my experience because I wouldn't have been as out there in the thing. Like, for example, if I was going to music school, that would have taken up a lot of time. What was I doing instead of going to music school? I was playing in like 4 bands, like simultaneously. And I was going on tours and I was learning a lot about the music industry. And I was learning about how to like work with and correlate things with other artists. I was learning about how to conduct myself as a musician. I was learning how to promote myself as a musician. I was learning how to make songs, how to perform songs. And so even though I lack a lot of like the textbook knowledge, I think I still got experience, which I think in the long run matters a little bit more. You can do it without music theory knowledge, but you can't really do it without experience. Experience is pretty important. I started music production says Distance because I was very inspired by dubstep exactly, and it was super fun. And I wanted to make music because it was super fun. Yeah, see, you got to be having fun. Then your experience hours will just rack up before you know it. Whereas Distance, if you're like looking at like, oh, I've been working this many years, I should be this good, or there's this 13-year-old kid that just wrote a symphony, I should be really good. Like, just if you're having fun, you're going to learn things. Distance that I don't even know. Like, everybody's experience is different. There's a lot of things in my experiences as a musician that I still haven't used. I'm like waiting for some of these lessons to ever come in handy. Oh boy. Whoa. Whoa. I'm not paying for everyone, but it would be cool to look forward to a meetup to Cyber. Hmm. I love that. Oh, you know what? That was the other part of Melancholy the Trash Man. It was like. Distance says, over time, I really lost the fun in making music. Distance. I talked about this like 100 streams ago. I wish I was LeVar Burton. Why? What did he do? What did he do? Cyber. I guess the Eric Andre show is back on the air because YouTube keeps recommending clips from the show. Heck yeah. Bring my boy back. Talk about Berkeley. Eric Andre graduated from the Berkeley School of Music. And homie does absolutely nothing musical, so. Screw music theory, I say. Screw music theory, screw Berkeley. I do think that the fun Distance does leave sometimes, and that's what people don't want to talk about, Sometimes the magic dies. Sometimes there's sometimes the flame dies down. And you have to spark. You have to. What is it when people's marriage is in trouble and they have to reignite the flame? Sometimes you have to do that. Something I thought about Distance was how when I used to go into my room. Can I paint you a picture? When I used to go into my room after school. I certainly didn't do my homework because, screw homework, but I had just gotten a personal computer in my room and I was playing this video game called Rose Online, if anybody remembers that game. Maybe not. would play this video game called Rose Online for a few hours, and I would eat like garbage. I would eat like pizza and drink Mountain Dew, and then eventually my friends would log out of the game. And when they would log out of the game, there was nothing really else to do. I didn't have cable, so there was nothing ever really on TV. So I would go into FL3. I would open up FL3, Distance, and Company. And I would just mess around. I would just make noises. I wasn't necessarily making a song every day. I wasn't even necessarily making a song every week, guys. I was literally just hitting buttons and turning knobs because it felt so cool to have that amount of power. As somebody who had never really worked in a program with that many like limitless possibilities, I would just kind of open it up and turn like knobs and then hit my keyboard because I didn't have a MIDI keyboard yet. I would like hit things on my keyboard and here I go like and then I would like click out notes and then hit the play button and it would like play the notes that I clicked and I was like, this is insane, like this is wild. I'm like making music. It doesn't sound good, but to me at the time, just the ability to be able to like write a bass line, write a drum thing, I was like blown away. I was like, is this how it's done? Can you just do this? I thought you had to go to school for stuff like this. I thought you had to like be in school for like 6 years to learn how to do cool stuff like this. And I was just having fun. Distance, I wouldn't even save as because I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know what an FLP was. I thought you just opened this program and you made a bunch of junk and then you closed it. I don't know. I didn't know you could save projects, so I didn't. And then once I learned that you could save projects, I didn't know you can export projects, so I didn't. I was like, if you want to hear my song, I'm going to have to open up FL. I didn't know you could export to MP3. Once I learned you could export things to MP3 Distance, it was like, I was like, oh, I'm Calvin Harris now. I'm the Daft Punk now. I didn't know that was a thing that you could just do in the comfort of your own home. It was very organic, and because of that, I was having so much fun and I wasn't making anything. I wasn't playing shows, I wasn't making fans, I wasn't posting things online. It was just in my bedroom. It was for me. And I think that, yeah, somewhere along the line I did lose that for a little bit. Somewhere along the line, when I sit at my computer now and the time is 5 p.m., and then I look up at the clock and it's 11 p.m. and I haven't made anything, I feel like a failure. I'm like, oh crap, I lost it. Whatever the magic was, it's gone. Today was a bust. It was a waste of time. And that's just from 6 hours. I used to go weeks, months without making anything, that was concrete, and I didn't feel like I had lost anything. And so getting back to that fun aspect of music has been actually a challenge even for me, Distance. The Friday stream helps because it gives me a confined constraint in order to make music, and there's no real tangible expectations from it. I mean, every now and then somebody will be in a stream and say, when's this coming out? Is this released? They'll say like, is this released? While I'm like literally recording it. Yo, is this on Spotify? And I'm like trying to write the bass line for it. People will say stuff like that, but I mean, it is nice to be able to create without the expectation and requirement of it needing to be a finished song all the time. Sometimes it's nice to just be able to mess around and and make some noises, turn some knobs. Sometimes I do pity the people in the stream because there are there's whole 20 to 30 minute segments in the 6 hour stream sometimes where I don't make anything. I'm kind of just looping the same thing and I'm like just messing around and jamming over it. Or I'll make something like I made that weird chicken, the chicken song. What was it? Like a little chicken talking and I made a little tune out of it. That hasn't turned into anything. It was just a fun little exercise. Lots of things like that will happen. I think it's important, Distance, and to everybody in the stream, it's important to be able to have fun in your art, and it's okay to lose it. People think that if you lose it, you're doing something wrong. It's supposed to get lost sometimes, and then you have to recapture it. You're a growing, aging, developing artist, and maybe something that used to be fun to you isn't fun anymore. You have to find new ways to make it fun. Obviously, when I was just getting into FL3, live streaming wasn't even a. I don't think that was a thing you could do actually. I don't think you could live stream back then. Pretty sure you couldn't, unless you were like on TV. I think if you were like on NBC News, that was that was what a live stream was, like being on live television. So, yeah, that wasn't a thing back then. But for now, maybe live streaming is how I stay on top of production. Keep the gears greased. Anywho, Liam says, it happened to me and I decided that I was going to push myself to release one song every day over October to make sure I didn't just sit and make nothing. I almost did that, Liam. I almost did that because there's Inktober. I wanted to basically do what Inktober was, but for music. But then I got really sad in October, so I didn't do it. But maybe next year. Maybe next year. There's always next year. Unless there isn't. Lindsay says, in college, I had to help people with Adobe programs because I had experience from middle school. Ooh. That's both fun and sad. Public access FL would have been fun. Public access FL. Aw, that's cool. Oh, Gaia. Oh, Gaia. Anywho, yeah, you have to keep it fun. Right now, a lot of my experiences in music are very structured, right? I have a morning medley stream that lasts roughly 2 hours every day, which, by the way, we just passed. I have these which last roughly 2 hours every weekday morning, and then on Friday, I am producing once a week, and for a long period of time. And I even got to the point, we just got to the point recently for anybody who hasn't been in the Friday stream where I actually had to say, like, okay, no new songs this Friday. This 6 hour Friday stream, I'm only working on songs I've already had developed because there's too many of them now, and I want to see some of these things through. And this Friday is probably going to end up being a lot like that. But yeah, I think that it's really important to just have fun. And I know how cheesy and stupid that sounds, but the reason I say it's important to have fun is because experience, guys, is the most important thing. Experience is really important, and time invested into the thing. I've talked in the past about when people are like, oh, I'm really good at playing. How can you be good at playing and not be trained? And it's because of an intimate relationship with your instrument. If you spend a lot of time on your instrument, you and your instrument are going to develop a relationship. And that is what makes it good and fun. It's kind of like when you look at two friends that have like a secret handshake, or they laugh at each other's jokes. They're so cool together, and you're just like, how did this happen? You guys are so compatible. And sometimes it's not that they're so compatible. Sometimes it's just they've known each other for a really long time. And there's a lot of people that I know that nobody else can get like on our level just because we've known each other for so many years that we're basically like two parts of a shared organism at this point. And so that's what I feel like with the keyboard. I've just spent so much time with it, and that's where a lot of the perceived skill comes from. It's just familiarity. And I think that since that is what's most important, why I say you need to have fun is for the same reason that somebody would say, hey, if you're going to eat healthy to do what's good for you, you want to get in shape and eat healthy, cool. But the things you're eating should taste good, right? Just because it's going to be more encouraging for you to continue to keep that diet up if you actually enjoy what you're eating. I feel the same way about music. If you're not enjoying yourself, how are you going to get in those hours? How are you going to be able to hit 10,000 hours on a piano or hit 10,000 hours in FL Studio? You gotta enjoy it to some degree, or else it just becomes a job. Anyways, it's been 2 hours. I'm going to start going over news, guys. This Friday is going to be another production stream. It's going to be about 6 to 7 hours. I know a lot of them have been going over 7 hours. And I want to say I apologize if it crashes. I don't know how to not have that happen, other than like trying to get new internet. So, you're welcome, distance. I do have some music out. Signals is a really jazzy, bebop jazzy EP, which is what Love Letters is from. I also have House of Omni, which is more collaborative. House of Omni was made by me and everybody that was living in my apartment at the time. If that makes sense. You know, somebody would live here, we'd make a song, they'd move out. Somebody else would move in, we'd make a song, they'd move out. And then I just had a few singles at the end of it, and I put them together, called it House of Omni, and released that. I also have a really experimental mixtape called Tall Tales, which we talked about that a little bit earlier. That's followed by the Dream series, which starts with Nice Dream, indie pop music, followed by Love Dream, which is like indie pop love songs, followed by Speed Dream, which is a more like short story oriented thing. There's like dialogue and a lot of score work that I did, and that's followed by Daydream, which is more orchestral. There's a lot of like Rhodes piano, pianos, strings, oboes, clarinets, flutes, glockenspiel, xylophones, marimbas, that kind of stuff. But it's on really fast drums, so it's like drum and bass and break beats. That's followed by Lush Dream, which is also a mixtape, very long, 33 tracks. It's meant to be listened to in the background, that's why it's so long. Very chill beats. And that is followed by the twin EPs or the sister EPs, Ego Death and Quick Breath. Quick Breath came first, and it's more indicative of the type of music that I was making and listening to at that time. So it's kind of like chill R&B, house vibe stuff. And that's followed by Ego Death, which is very different. It's more ambient, sadder and darker in tone than Quick Breath. But yes, very ambient. I'm very glad that I made Ego Death. I don't know that I make another full project like Ego Death. What a like if I hadn't released that, I don't know that I ever would release that even now. Like that was kind of just like one of those it was like the right time. For some reason I was just feeling like making music like that. I'm so glad that I was able to do that because I just don't feel like I can do that today. Release like just straight up 7 like ambient songs. Anyways, Jaime says, I'm surprised there was never a Bad Dream EP. There was a Bad Dream EP. Stay away. Sorry, there's a wasp hanging out around my window. There was a Bad Dream EP, it just was not released. The Bad Dream EP was supposed to have been released right after Speed Dream. And it was actually going to be connected to Speed Dream. And it was going to bridge the gap between Speed Dream and Daydream. One of the main reasons that the Bad Dream EP didn't come out is because one of the major vocalists featured on it ended up getting signed to RCA. She got signed to RCA, and they killed all the songs that were going to be on it. So, and technically killed a song that was going to be on Quick Breath too. But anyways, they killed it, and that's what happened to Bad Dream EP. So a lot of the music for it still exists. It's now a dead B-side. Oh boy. So review, says Cyber, I'm much happier with the battery life on this phone. It's amazingly long lasting. The camera is slower than the 2XL when using night mode, but overall I'm happy with it. I'm happy to hear this. The 485G has a solid record. Go away. Sorry. The 45G is a solid recommend for me. Just get a case, for sure. I need to test more video recording, but overall I'm happy with it. Yeah, that's the only thing that really, when it comes to phones, I only care about video stuff, right? Because I don't really use my phone. I've become a person that like leaves their phone in their room and just roams around the house. But I do use it for streams, and I do use it to like shoot all of the videos that I edit for music stuff, so I do care about how the video looks. Man, what's your keyboard? Says, what is it, Flink? Flink, I didn't see you come in. Welcome to the stream. If you've been in here the entire time and are just only now speaking up, thank you for being in this stream, and I'm sorry that it's ending now. If you're coming in only now at the ending, I'm sorry that you missed all the music parts, but Flink, this keyboard is called a Yamaha DGX. They do not make this particular model anymore, but if you just go to Yamaha, most keyboards that they have, especially like the mid-tier ones, do basically the same things. I would say that if you're trying to get this keyboard, 2 things to look for is 88 keys and make sure they're semi-weighted. If you get any semi-weighted 88 key keyboard, it's going to be more or less exactly like this one. Whether that's a Yamaha keyboard, a Korg keyboard, a Roland keyboard, a Kawai keyboard, a Casio keyboard, really, it's just, digital pianos are digital pianos for the most part, Flink, but I do appreciate your question. I remember you mentioning this story before, but I'm surprised to find out they were also attached to Hypothetical Bad Dream. Yeah. I had kind of like a pool, Jaime, of like vocalists that I would work with a lot. and she was one of them. And so we had whatever. So it's a thing. It happens quite a bit actually, more than I'd like to admit in the music industry, of somebody getting signed under a specific contract and then stuff you had kind of like in the canon ready to launch for them getting scrubbed out. But it's a thing. Hello, Rim. Chuck says, do Huawei phones ship to the U.S.? I don't know. Actually, is it pronounced Huawei? You're talking about the Chinese phone, right? I don't know, actually, Chuck, but if they do, I haven't seen anybody with one. I can say that. But I haven't seen anybody, period, in a little while, so. Jaime said, oh, Jaime's talking to Lindsay. Anyways, the Cyber says you can buy them. I just wouldn't recommend them since they don't have access to Google Store anymore. Yikes, didn't know that was a thing. Could you? It would be wild going from a Google phone to a phone that literally has no access to Google. Um, that's funny though. Jeff Lee says, could you release Bad Dream with a different vocalist? I do not want to. Could I? Absolutely. I mean, I could release whatever I want. But this weird thing happens, Jeff Lee, and maybe if you're a musician to any regard or an artist at all, you can agree with this, where it's like you make a lot of stuff, right? Then let's say something gets old, and it gets older. Maybe it's like it's 2 years old, maybe 3 years old. Sometimes you can feel a little weird releasing it because it no longer connects with the artist that you are today. That happens a lot with music. There are a lot of B-sides. There's a lot of songs that I have that are unreleased just because maybe it's chiptune and I don't want to put out chiptune today. Or maybe it sounds too much like Speed Dream or Love Dream, and I'm like, that's a cool song, but I don't want to put that out today. I already have so much of a struggle trying to distance myself from Nice Dream and those sounds that it would be kind of counterintuitive for me to release Nice Dream sounds, in 2020. Jesse says Huawei is still banned. Word. Oh boy. Just realized I had two homies posters. Goodness gracious. Today's another work day, guys. I will be in the Discord because I'm going to be on my computer most of the day. Wish me luck. Wishing my eyeballs luck. Thank you, Aphrodite. I take it that we never played Among Us. That second time we were trying to. If we did, I missed it. It never happened, Cyber. At least I didn't play. If everybody else played, I just wasn't part of the game. I will not forget to blink though, Chuck. Thank you for the reminder. Ooh. Have a well-tuned wintry Wednesday. I'll do my best on that one. I'll do my best on that one, Leanna. That might be rough. Okay, thank you, everybody. That covers all of the news. I hope that you guys... it's fine. I hope that you guys do enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, Street Sweeping Day. I will see you guys here for Morning Medley 274 tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And then after that, we will have the Friday production stream, which will be 6 hours. So strap in for those of you that will be in there, and for those of you that will not. I do hope you enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend. Thank you, everybody, for being respectful of me and polite to each other. Oh, hold on. Omni, how many times? How many times are we going to do that?